This week, we'd like to talk about quality management systems and why should I care about it. Not only will your regular employees, but even your managers can sometimes get confused about all of what's going on in a quality management system and what exactly it means and what does it apply to their job. There's so many terms that are tossed around: QMS, quality management system, configuration management, document control systems, identification. They mean very specific things to the quality managers, but sometimes your users don't always have the same understanding of what those terminologies mean. And to make things even more confusing, there's so many choices. Quality management systems, the ISO one that's very well known, as well as others like the TS 16949 that is the automotive industry standard. The Society of Automotive Engineers has the AS9100 series for aerospace standards. And once you've picked a quality standard, you've got different registrars and many, many other choices that can come into play. They're all trying to solve the same problem, but the choices can often cause for a lot of confusion. So we're looking at the question of the applications of a quality management system. It's good to take a step back and ask the question, what does quality really mean? When things are handcrafted or hand-built, quality is something that the person who's doing the work applies to the product that's being produced. But if they're trying to hand on their particular craft, we often would see an apprenticeship or training or other things like that. But in an industry, when you're trying to build things that are consistent with multiple people, quality has a very different meaning. When we look at the meaning of quality, we look at, for producing something, how do we control for variations, and how do we know which variations are worth the cost investment and time investment to control for. And we have to look to what people, our customers, are actually asking for. So as we look for a quality system, we have to say, what is the problem that's being solved? First and foremost, this problem that's being solved is, how do we make sure that we satisfy the customer and maximize value? How do we satisfy the customer and do it in the best way possible? We want to meet or exceed their expectations, and we want to continually be improving. Of course, the old joke says, if you're continually improving, how do you know when you've ever gotten there? But there's no industry that cannot benefit from making their solution a little bit better all the time. So what have these different quality systems done? And all the different quality management systems have several key points in common. The first big one is that every quality management system is customized in application for the company, based on its size, based on their industry, based on the work that they're doing, the products they're producing, and who their customers are. Their application of the standard is different. So why bother having a standard if it's so customized all the time? The one thing that makes this really helpful is that you then know that these problems, which are common to all industry, are being addressed within your own organization. If you aren't doing a part of a quality system, the quality system will alert you to the fact that you're not doing it and allow you to address it. You may still end up not doing it, but at least you're doing it because of a decision that you've made, not by fiat, and because you just weren't aware that that could cause a problem. All of these systems utilize what's known as a process approach. They look at the idea of what the company does as a process that transforms inputs into outputs. Those outputs could be product, they could be reports, they could be data analyses. Whatever it is that your company is doing is some kind of output, and each step in the process could be its own process, and those processes each add value to the system. The third key aspect to quality management system is accountability. When I, as a company, obtain a registration or certification with one of these certification bodies for a quality management system, that lets other companies and other customers know that when they come and deal with my company, that there's a certain set of standards that they can expect that have been checked by an independent third party and verify that those things are being followed. Auditors and consultants love to show these simplified diagrams, with a nice, simple, clean model of what the quality management system is supposed to look like. The AS9100, the ISO 9001 standard, follows this main model where the customers provide you input and your company processes through management of resources and through your product realization, through your production, produce your outputs that then hopefully end up with satisfying the customer. The feedback you get from the customer and the feedback you get from within the process are used to improve the process itself. As we looked at the AS9100 standard, which is what Duotech Services follows, AS9100 is a superset of ISO 9000, and it takes the base ISO standard and adds aerospace specific requirements to it, but it has two major requirements: is that you as a company have a documented quality manual so that your procedures are well understood, and that you maintain the documents and records that you need to provide evidence that you're following the defined process. And really, all these quality management systems are at the high level the same. You want to have a process and a plan in place and prove that you're following that process. So how do we bring all those pieces together within a particular system? The ISO/AS9100 standard starts with kind of the key notation in paragraph 4, where it states that a documented procedure shall be established to define the controls needed. We kind of have to gloss over the existential question: is how do you create a control document that tells you how to control documents? But once you have a document control system in place, that's really the key to making a good, effective quality management system work. A good document control system has to provide for several things. It must provide for a way of approving documents to make sure they're adequate before they're used. It has to have a way of reviewing documents, making sure that changes are going to be correct and not having adverse impacts before we release them. We need to make sure that we can identify the current revisions and any changes that have taken place. We need to make sure that the right version of the documents are available to the people who need them when they need them. So we need to have some method of distributing documents to the people that need them in a way that allows for the proper versions to be there. We need to make sure that documents remain legible and identifiable. Now, this sounds like a bigger problem back when documents were all in paper and could be copied multiple times and end up being grainy and impossible to read. But even in today's technology, we need to be careful that we understand file formats and computer systems, that we can use methods that will allow for documents to be readable over long periods of time. It's very easy for documents to become unreadable because the software that opened them is no longer available. So your document control system needs to be aware and address: how do I access these documents for the length of time the document's life could be useful? I need to be able to control the distribution of documents that my company didn't even produce, because I do need to utilize reference documents, whether they're industry standards, whether they're federal regulations, whether they're manufacturer specifications, component data sheets. There are documents that come into my process that I need to make sure that I track any changes and needs for them. So my document control system needs to be able to deal with things that maybe my company didn't even produce. And I need to very much make sure that no document is used that isn't approved, because everything that makes the quality management system work is about making sure that the approved processes are being followed. And you can't follow the approved process if people are following the unapproved process or the old version. The second thing that you need to control besides document are records. Records are a special kind of document that are an evidence at a point in time that a particular part of the process was followed. Records, unlike documents, do not change. They're a snapshot at a point in time. Yes, this step was done by this person on this date. Those records need to be retained in a way that's retrievable, so that when we need to prove that the process was done correctly, we can easily get to those records. A pile of papers in a room does not make an effective record control system. Now, once you have your document and record control systems in place, most of the base work is kind of there. quality management system, document control system, and those bring us into paragraph 7 of the ISO manual, product realization. Now, the product can be anything that your company produces, whether that's a small part or a large assembly, whether that's a piece of data or a piece of software, an analysis report, or an actual system. So whatever it is that your company does, the product realization process covers what that is. Now, the first step in this process is planning it. Now, just like your quality management manual is a customized document for your particular organization, the production plan for your particular product is customized for that particular product and this particular build. This allows for you to make sure to tailor assignments of responsibility, the methods and schedule of the project management, the risk systems that you're going to make place could change exactly how you implement those based on differing contract requirements from job to job. So before you start anything, the first step in realizing the product is planning it. Now, one of the big things that you need to plan during this initial stage is the configuration management of this item. Now, configuration management is kind of a different thing from your quality management, but it really dovetails very cleanly because the configuration management provides a method whereby we can have direction over the part, not just through its design, but throughout its life cycle. The first bit is that you need to define the configuration items that you're going to control as part of your product and all the data that's necessary to describe those items. Once you've identified a traceable set of documentation for that particular product and you've assigned responsibility for making sure that that the document stays consistent, that the parts are going to conform to the documents that there are, then you're able to get the benefits of a CM plan. And we're not going into a ton of detail on this, but the benefits, the reason you want to look into getting a CM plan as part of your production system is that you define all the attributes of your product so that you, your customer, your suppliers can all have a common reference point for what to expect from this part when it's delivered. We have to have a known baseline so that if we're going to make a change, because changes will happen throughout the life of a product, how do we know that change is going to have minimal impact or beneficial impact only and not cause harm? I have the ability now with a good configuration management system to be able to repeatably build the same product. And that's helpful for a lot of reasons in terms of support in the field and things like this, that I both know what I can build it consistently and know what I've built. And we're able to avoid guesswork in the field, avoid guesswork on the production line, avoid guesswork in our repair and our service centers. All that is all linked into having a good CM. If your CM is non-existent or it's broken, what you end up with is problems. You have parts that get swapped in that aren't going to work properly because of different variations, or we didn't analyze it appropriately. If changes are made with unintended consequences and now I have to go back and change them again, I've impacted my schedule, I've impacted my cost of my build. If I end up shipping products that differ too much and I don't know about it, then when items come in for repair, I don't know which version of documents to go back to in order to be able to repair the part, and that can cause downtime. So there's a lot of different issues that can be solved by having a good CM plan in place. Once we take our planning process done, then we can move into making sure that we have our processes defined. Now, there's several different groupings of these processes. The first are the ones that relate to the customer. How do I make sure to communicate clearly with the customer? How do I make sure that I've got their requirements, both their stated and their unstated requirements, so that I can make sure that I'm meeting those requirements throughout my design, production, testing phases of the system. So you got to define these processes, and then once you have the requirements signed off, then you can move into design and development. Here again, we need to plan. What is my design and my development going to look like for this particular product? What are my inputs? What are my outputs? How do I bring those together in a way that everyone agrees on what the result is going to look like? And then once I've finished my design, how do I verify that design to make sure that it meets the requirements? Once I have a design built, then I can go into building it. That involves purchasing to make sure that I get the right materials for the job. That involves my production to make sure that they're using the right drawings, to make sure that they're following the right steps, that they build the necessary tooling, write the work instructions, whatever needs to be done in order to make this design turn into something that's real. Once I'm done with that, I need to verify that again to make sure that the thing that I built matches the requirements, that the thing that I built matches the design, and that the resulting product meets the requirements that the design was supposed to be meeting. A key aspect of making sure that your production systems are working is making sure that your monitoring equipment, your measurement systems within that product are functioning properly, so that you have control over all of those things. So when you come into thinking about, why do I care about our QMS? Well, the thing is that eventually it's all about satisfying the customer. And so a good, effective QMS system allows your company to make sure that you're satisfying the customer, you're not spending money where it's not providing benefit, and that you are delivering product that you can be proud of and the customer can be happy with. Thank you for watching this video, and if you want to find out more information about Duotech services, our products, our services, and what we do, please visit our website. You can follow us with more videos on our YouTube channel as well. Thank you.